Welcome into the Irish NFL show. Welcome into Radio Road. This section is brought to you by Dunes Drams, our travel partner. If you are an NFC East fan, stick with us for the next 15 minutes. If you're a New York Giants fan, stick with us forever, because we're going to discuss everything to do with the New York Giants. And if you don't like the Giants, you're probably better off moving on to the next podcast. Pat Leonard, New York Daily News, TalkinBalls podcast, who was with us live in New Orleans last year.
Yeah.
Ciaran, no holds barred, guys, on the Giants. It's been a good off season so far because we have a head coach. Pat, I'll start with you.
Yeah.
We spoke back and forth in text about they need to get this higher, right? This is the one. Like, this is the one. We know where the organization is in terms of what's going on in the background. They've tried too many different coaches, whether it's offensive, defensive, first-time coaches. It looks like they got the right guy this time.
For sure. And just to piggyback on this, 40 minutes ago or so, not only do the Giants feel like they just gained an advantage coaching-wise with Harbaugh in the building, Jeff Stoutland from the Eagles just stepped down.
Yes.
So if you're the Giants right now, you feel like, based on pedigree, you have the best head coach in the division. I don't think anybody would really argue that. And now one of the best position coaches in the league, who you have not been able to solve, a team that has just dominated you for years, is stepping away. If the Philadelphia Eagles are sliding back even a little bit more, you have Schottenheimer still figuring things out as a head coach. And Washington really looks like, if Quinn doesn't get it right, he could get fired after a year. The Giants are sitting pretty on this, the future looking brighter than what it's been. And just at a baseline level, like, that's why they hired him. They hired him so that their floor would be higher and you could look to the future and have hope instead of same old Giants.
Ciaran, you said to me a couple of weeks ago when we were back and forth, this kind of changes the dynamic of what players you can go after, because players will want to play for John Harbaugh. It's a very different situation to what we've seen in the past.
Right. And that was a big thing about, when you look at the teams in the Super Bowl right now, what they did in free agency in 25, the model is right there. I mean, what the Pats did and what the Seahawks did, Milton Williams, Spillane, the names just, they just keep coming. And you've seen the Pats go from 4-13 to 13-4. You've seen the Seahawks go from no playoffs to where they are now. That has to be the model. And I know cap is an issue, cap space is an issue, but you have to think, and we hear names like Tyler Linderbaum. I'm sure he's going to be in the mix. A couple other Ravens special teams players in there as well. So you have to think that players will be shed, and it's going to be an attractive place to come, A, with Harbaugh, B, with, obviously the weapons that they have on offense. But they got a great defense that just needs a couple other pieces. Obviously, secondary is a big thing. So, yes, it's an attractive place to go to, but they got to spend wisely.
I think it's a great point about personnel, because I think the undercovered part about Harbaugh's hiring, everyone's focusing on what's important, right? It's the leadership, it's the culture, it's the building. But I'm excited to see how they select players differently with Harbaugh running it. It's like you said, it's a more attractive destination now, but because he is now in control instead of Joe, there's going to be a shift in the roster building philosophy, right? So I agree with you. I think the offensive line is a priority. Now, every team says it is, but Shane has shown over 4 years to not really know what to do when it comes to judging that talent. John Harbaugh has shown that he does, right? Also, where are the holes in the Giants roster otherwise? The secondary screams at you. And if the Ravens did anything with their draft picks, there's two things they're known for recently. It's trading back and acquiring more picks, because they don't think they're the smartest people in the room. They know the percentage stays the same. You need to take more swings. The other thing is they've drafted corners and safeties high. And so there are other positions more important, right, if you don't have them. But if you have a roster like the Giants with Brian Burns, Malik Neighbors when he's healthy, those types of positions, and you hope Jackson Dart's the guy, now you're looking at, we need a safety. We need a cover corner. And those are things that Harbaugh has shown that he identifies and prioritizes.
You speak about Jackson Dart there, and one of the things that personally I thought was blown out of proportion this last year was obviously the head hits that he took there. How did that really go down in the building? Because I don't think that it was as bad as everyone else kind of made it out, but how did that go down in the building with Jackson Dart?
That's a great question. So that report at ESPN about Jackson being reckless came from the Giants building. And I think that's fascinating, because then obviously they have to fight against the narratives, but it was like they were fighting as if it came from one of us. And it was someone in the Giants organization trying to rein it in. Yeah, I think my personal opinion is my opinion. I think it was front office hedging their bets and saying, listen, it's looked good to a point here under Brian Daboll, but at a cost. And if you remember, after the draft, and I'll give Shane credit for this, the night they drafted Jackson Dart, and they're up there pounding their chest that they did it, Shane said in the press conference, yeah, I mean, it'd be nice if this guy wasn't in the Senior Bowl putting his head down into a linebacker. He said it right there. So it was like a concern pre-draft, and it was, now it's valid to a point, right? It's valid to a point. Like the thing in New England, well, let me say this. I think it actually then caused Jackson to do it more, to say like in that New England game when he got flipped like a gymnast over into the sideline, I think that was him saying, I know I can go out of bounds. Screw this. Like, I'm going to take this hit. I'm going to get the extra yard. So how it went down is I think Jackson was feeling around for, what is this? You drafted me because I do this.
Yeah,
now you don't want me to do it?
Yeah.
I think it was close to being a huge problem for his development, because then, not to be too long-winded, but Kafka's first 2 games, you could tell the Giants then the directive was make him a pocket passer. And how did that look?
Yeah.
Now, Jackson can throw from the pocket, but he's not a pocket passer who scrambles once in a while. He's a dual threat quarterback who can throw.
Yeah.
So if you're going to try to make him something he's not, it's not going to happen.
It's putting defense soft because they know the option is there for him to be in the run pass game, where if they leave him in the pocket, they know what they're dealing with.
Absolutely. And the Nagy hire is a good one, I think, for this. Now, I know a lot of Giant fans not excited about this hire. I understand because of what you thought they might get. Obviously, the Giants essentially said Monken was coming and then he didn't. But coaches around the league are saying they like this hire for Dart because a lot of RPOs. I mean, this guy better running RPOs with mobile quarterbacks than almost anybody in the league, and encourages mobility. But as one source said to me, he said he's not going to run his quarterback into the ground. And again, what's that an allusion to, right?
Yeah.
And that's something I think you should like to hear if you're a Giants fan, because I think what that'll show is Nagy's going to come in and say, listen, I know what people have talked about. What we're going to do is we're going to run the offense. He's probably going to name Mahomes. He's probably going to drop his name 100 times to make sure Jackson's listening.
Yeah.
And, but I think at the end of the day, he's going to understand, Jackson is, that Nagy encourages mobility and isn't going to just like force it upon him.
Yeah. And speaking of Nagy, I was talking to Chris Sims earlier on from PFT.
Flex.
And he made a good point. Another Giants fan. It's all going around. He made a really good point that, with Monken out there and we didn't get him, Kingsbury, people thought he might get him, but the thought was if Kingsbury has a good season as the offensive coordinator, now he's open to a head coach position. So that's why that may have been some of the thinking to do with getting Nagy, with his experience, but also if we get Kingsbury, we may only have him for a year because he's going to be a real hot commodity if he has a good season with Dart.
Yeah, and in fairness to the Giants not hiring Kingsbury, to your point, I don't have a handle on this. There's something going on there with, like, he's too good of a play caller to not get one of these jobs.
Exactly.
So something else is going on there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I honestly don't know exactly what it is. You could be right. It could be, hey, we know what this guy aspires to. We know he's not going to be here for long, those types of things. I mean, Nagy still aspires to a head coaching job too. I think, though, you probably get him here, even if it goes well, a minimum 2 years, because with Malik coming back with the knee and Scadaboo, and you're still piecing this together, it's going to be hard for them to do what the Patriots did, even though that has happened. It's going to be hard to go like shoot the moon. I think you're looking at more, listen, you win 7 or 8 games this year as the Giants, and you put competent football on the field at least every other week. We're talking about a light years difference in what they looked like in previous years.
I kind of want to touch on the offensive line in 2 different ways. First of all, I want to look at the coaching side of things. And obviously, Carmen Brasello was so well loved by Giants fans and also in the building, but obviously he's not going to be there. But then you also have the Jermaine Illuminor conundrum in the terms of, are you going to re-sign him? How much is he looking for? And what that offensive line looks like? Because actually, it took a massive step forward this year.
Yeah. Well, Harbaugh let Illuminor out of the building in Baltimore, right?
And that's my worry.
Yeah. So he's a polarizing player because Giants fans, I understand there's so many years of like, this line looks like,
sucks.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's after the Irish watershed.
Absolutely. I think Giants fans, though, are grading on a curve. He's better than what Evan Neal was as a right tackle, but I don't think Jermaine is an irreplaceable tackle.
Mm-hmm.
So would not shock me if he gets paid by somebody else and the Giants say, thank you for your service. Especially because, listen, Priscillo, Illuminor, Van Roten, they're clearly all comfortable together.
Yeah.
That could all just be a reunion in Tennessee for all we know.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a bad thing. You know, I think the Giants have a lot of work to do there. They have to work on the interior. They need a right guard. They need a right tackle. They need reinforcement, swing tackle. Marcus Bowe needs to, Marcus, if you're watching this, go eat something, get in the weight room. I mean, the guy is a very, very encouraging prospect. But if you walk by all the linemen, you stop and you say, wait, you're Bowe? Right? He needs to get bigger. He needs to get bigger.
And I have to ask, sorry, Brian, I have to ask when we're talking about the line, I have to ask about Andrew Thomas. I mean, we know he's a phenomenal player. He keeps the line together when he's healthy. That's the question. If he plays next year, and again, if he's only able to make 8 or 9 games, not a season like last year, but if it's an 8 or 9 season game, there goes the O-line, do we think?
Right. Yeah. Yes. I mean, that's what's happened. It would happen again, I think. I'll say this, Andrew, these last 2 years, I'm not just saying this, like the last 2 years, he has worked on his body, like as well as any Giant I've seen in my 10 years covering the team. He looks amazing. He's a specimen. And this year, to be honest, I think he had his back up a little bit. Like every year when he's had the health issues and this and that and struggles, everybody wants to talk to him all the time. And now this year he was playing well and he was healthy. And it was like the requests weren't coming in the same. So he's like, okay. You know, I'm just going to put my head down and work. If to your point, keep drafting tackles and linemen.
Absolutely.
Here's what the Giants have always done since I've been there. They draft a tackle or a safety and they cross it off. They say, okay, we got that. No.
But it's never. It's an abundance of players and positions you need. They don't.
Well, depth has always been the issue.
Yeah.
Especially with the O-line.
If Marcus Bowe needs to be fed, he'd be better off coming away with the Irish NFL show, because believe me, the food I've seen eaten on this trip is it's an eye opener. I'm going to save the best to last on this question because I have a funny feeling Pat's going to give us the best answer on this.
Okay.
Is Joe Schoen in situ because of the ownership situation with the health, as in Stamara, or is it a case that they dodged the bullet because they've made the decision that Harbaugh will come in and inevitably he will say, I've tried to make it work, it hasn't worked, and they'll move off Joe Schoen. And I even thought, even in the press conference, the way he said to Joe, and he was kind of talking down to him, of course he was on a podium, but you know where I'm coming from, as in, they don't want to play football, they're just going to go somewhere else. And I think that was him kind of saying, you've been bringing in really poor players. That's not going to happen under my watch, and I'm going to be the one making that decision. So is he a sitting duck, or do you think he has an opportunity? If John Harbaugh turns things around, then inevitably he's turned it around and he gets to remain.
Well, how much does Shane, how much of the credit does he get if Harbaugh does turn it around? I think in all intents, and he only got a 1-year contract. Am I right? An extension.
He has this year left.
He's a sitting duck.
And there was a report that he could get extended after the draft.
Well, we were all high on Shane when he came in. Obviously, the Shane and Dable package. All Giants fans were high on it.
Yeah,
but on top of what you may think of him as a personality or a person, it's his downfall is his draft picks. And I think that's been glossed over a lot, especially with how he was able to keep his job this past off season. And I think, I can only think that it's a lame duck position because Harbaugh coming in is again, we've had 4 of the last Giant coaches have been coordinators. Now you've got Harbaugh, somebody with pedigree who's been in the Super Bowl. The leash will be a lot shorter, I think, especially with the way things have been reconfigured with Harbaugh's, kind of power and responsibility. So I can only see it being a lame duck position right now.
It's really difficult because of the fact that he has done certain things well. And I think if you go by recency bias, it has been good, as you touched on, like his last draft went really well. But John Harbaugh's come in and you can see there's a shift change immediately in just how the Giants are operating. You can see that there's a lot of coaching staff that have gone. There's going to be a lot of player turnover. And it will be Harbaugh who reaps the rewards from it, I think.
Yeah. What I was told is that Harbaugh will play this however he needs to politically, but that it's going to be a when, not if, that Shane is not a part of the Giants anymore. Now that, to your point, they could extend him 1 year after the draft, so he's not a lame duck for this year, but then next year Harbaugh figures it out. Giants are hiring Donna Ponte from the league in a senior VP role. She'll get involved in the cap, but she has a lot of executive experience. She could end up being the next GM for all we know, and Harbaugh's pick in waiting. We don't know that. But one thing I will say is Shane, this past year, Shane Bowen obviously took a lot of heat for the defense, and rightfully so. But in addition to the draft this year, the Javon Holland, Paulson Adebo, like there's a lot of money invested right now in prominent veteran players on this team who, if they were all on 1 year expiring contracts, you'd be like, not on the team, not on the team, not on the team.
Yeah.
And so he has played also, he's been a baseball GM who has his hands in everything. So he has had a direct role in what the Giants look like now. And I think what's going to happen here is John Harbaugh is playing nice.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I mean, if they turn it around while Shane is still here, there was a question you asked.
Yeah.
Will he get credit for it? I know he'll take it. I think it'll be interesting to see how much he plays into why it turned around. If Dart is the reason, even though we all know Dable directed that way,
yeah,
Joe will get the credit and deserve a large amount of it because he made the trade up.
Well, Ian O'Connor did a very good piece,
Yeah.
And he said that he doesn't buy into
Good Irish laugh.
Yeah, yeah. And he didn't buy into, it was Dable's pick, because the GM stood by the decision. And if other GMs do that, they get credited with, I listened to my coach, he was in on this player, and we went with him, and then we get the kudos together.
Right.
People immediately, and I think it was probably all down to how they described that content in which they put out. And it felt like Joe Shane was kind of covering his own back by saying, you were in on the player, you're convinced by the player, we'll make the pick. I felt, and I think most Giants felt like he's doing that in a way, and the narrative is that he's spinning that to make it look like if it doesn't go right, which we spoke about earlier, it wasn't my selection.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I'll try not to be long-winded, but basically that clip you just described in the draft room, months before that, coming out of the 24 season, Brian Dable could sense that Joe Shane was saying me a lot more than we. And so if you're John Harbaugh right now, you say to yourself, okay, I know now because John reads everything. He's a smart man. I know that this GM said collaborative, and then threw this guy under the bus the second it started looking bad. So if the guy has a bad record drafting and has made some bad signings, and that's what he did to the last coach, why would you keep him around?
I'm going to wrap up with, it's fairly early. It's Super Bowl week. We still have one game to go in the season. There's going to be combine free agency. What's a reasonable expectation for us next season? Because we're talking about a team playing on Sunday that won 4 games last year. The Commanders last year went to the championship game, having won 4 games the following season. Why can't it not be the Giants in this situation next year?
Year on year, there's teams that have turned it around. I mean, I live in Florida. The Jags went from 4-13 to what they did this year. There's no reason to think that the Giants can't win at least 8, maybe 9 games. No reason to believe they can't. I mean, we gotta think there's going to be some action free agency. Hoping there's going to be a much better draft than, I don't know, the 23 draft, but there's no reason to think that we can't win at least double the amount of games of last year, plus a couple more as well. So I'm high on the Giants.
Right?
Yeah, this past season I said that we would win 6, and I had the lowest rank on Big Blue UK and Ireland. I actually do think that a winning season is good enough this year, so I'm looking at like 9 and 8, and I'll be relatively happy with that.
Yeah, I think
you're going to cover it, Pat. So you want to be going watching winning football,
right? 100%. And yeah, it's been almost an entire decade of losing.
You've got to be writing about that than having to write the negative. I know you do your job professionally, but people always want to be talking about the good things,
right? And the locker room opens up when they win. Yeah. Right? The players get excited. They start telling stories, right?
Sorry, Pat, I'm going to jump across you. But me and Ciaran were there at the Thursday night game when they beat the Eagles, and we all walked out of that stage that night going, that's a team that can go and beat other teams. Little did we know that we nearly didn't win another game the rest of the season walking out of the stadium.
What it was going to look like after that.
You saw it in there. How much you saw James Winston, you saw Russell Wilson. Well, we saw a little bit too much of James Winston, to be honest. but
come on, that Detroit game was the best game of the year. It was amazing.
That's because we came over. Of the order.
Yeah, I mean, I think my expectation is, like you said, 500 as long as they're healthy. So Malik, I'll believe Malik is going to be ready to play football when I see it. That's a complicated injury to come back from. Like I keep telling people, 27 is the year for the Giants, not 26.
Yeah.
But with Ronnie Barnes being reassigned, they're bringing in a new head athletic trainer. Obviously, they'll practice differently. If the Giants can stop being the team that it feels like the injuries are inevitable, and then what's on paper is what's on the field, then I think they should, whether their record's 500 or not, I think they should look every week like a 500 team.
Yeah.
And hopefully, Here's what I think with John Harbaugh. The good news, if you're a Giants fan, Monday mornings, I think you'll be able to wake up next year and just talk about the football.
Yeah.
As long as this ownership thing gets figured out. But I'm sure we're out of time.
The TalkinBalls podcast, New York Daily News, Pat Leonard, always very good to us. Pat, before we go, one more.
Yeah.
You got it right last year. Who's winning on Sunday?
Seahawks. I feel like I'm stepping into a trap because I feel like a lot of people are picking that, but they're the hotter team. And if I've learned anything, I'm sure the Patriots will win by 10 now, but if I've learned anything over covering sports, it's that the best team doesn't always win. It's the hottest team at that time. And I think now, even though I didn't see it 3 weeks ago, the Seahawks look to me like the clearly hottest team.
Covering the 4.5, Fred?
Yes.
Quimby had that at even money, 4.5. You got it from Pat Leonard first. Put your money on the Seahawks this Sunday. Craig, Ciaran, Pat. This is the Giants Irish NFL show. Huddle. A joint step to the successful future with John Harbaugh as a new head coach. Thank you for joining us.